The stellar observatory Meridian had been humanity's crown jewel, once a research station. Positioned at the edge of the Helix Nebula, where the birth and death of stars painted the cosmos in brilliant colors, now it was a tomb, slowly dying, as its power systems failed one by one. Abandoned by the Terran Federation when the war with the Zelthrans had escalated beyond all reason, Kira Voss pressed her palm against the observation deck's reinforced viewport, watching another distant sun collapse into itself. The supernova's light would reach inhabited worlds in 1,000 years, but she wouldn't live to see it. Hell, she probably wouldn't live to see tomorrow. NYX, power status report, she called to the station's AI. Though she already knew the answer would be grim, life support at 18% and falling. Kira, came the synthetic voice, tinged with the electronic warble that indicated system degradation. Atmospheric recyclers will fail within 47 hours. I'm sorry. As if the AI's emotional subroutines could truly comprehend what it meant to be left behind. Kira's research team had evacuated 3 days ago, when long-range sensors detected a Zelthran battle fleet approaching. Standard protocol demanded all civilian assets withdraw to safer sectors. What the protocol didn't account for was a solar storm that had fried the station's primary communications array. Just as the evacuation order came through, by the time Kira had repaired the damage, her team was gone. The emergency beacon she'd managed to send had received only an automated response. Message received. Evacuation complete. Station Meridian designated lost asset. Do not attempt rescue operations in hostile territory. Lost asset. 23 years of her life studying stellar phenomena, mapping the birth songs of newborn stars, and she'd been reduced to a line item marked for deletion. The irony wasn't lost on her that she'd dedicated her career to understanding how stars died. Now she'd get to experience it firsthand. A proximity alarm cut through her bitter thoughts. Kira's head snapped toward the sensor station, where red lights pulsed in urgent rhythm. Something was approaching Meridian, something big and moving fast. Nix, identify the contact. Scanning, configuration unknown. Hull composition suggests Zelthran origin, but the design doesn't match any known vessel classes. It appears to be damaged. Kira's blood chilled. A Zelthran ship. Here, she'd heard the stories entire colonies glassed from orbit. Research stations like this one turned into drifting graveyards. The Zelthrans were humanity's bogeymen, silicon-based life forms from the Andromeda Spiral, who'd been systematically expanding into human space for the past 5 years. Is it armed? Weapons systems appear offline. The vessel is crashing. Kira. Through the viewport, she could see it now, a sleek, organic-looking craft that seemed grown rather than built. Its hull scarred by weapon impacts and trailing atmosphere. It struck the station's docking ring with a grinding shriek of twisted metal, the impact sending vibrations through Meridian's superstructure. For several minutes, Kira simply stared at the alien ship. Inside that vessel was her enemy, one of the beings whose kind had taken everything from her, who'd turned her into a forgotten casualty of an endless war. The smart thing would be to let whatever was inside die with the ship. But as she watched, a faint light pulsed within the wreckage. Someone was alive in there. Kira found herself moving toward the airlock before conscious thought could override instinct. She'd sworn an oath as a researcher to preserve knowledge, to seek understanding even in the face of the unknown. And right now, the unknown was bleeding to death 50 meters away. The airlock cycled with agonizing slowness. Emergency protocols demanded she wear a full environmental suit, but the station's suit locker had been raided during the evacuation. All she had was an emergency breath mask and a prayer that the alien ship's atmosphere wouldn't kill her instantly. The Zelthran vessel's hull had cracked open like an egg, revealing an interior that defied human design principles. Instead of right angles and mechanical precision, everything curved and flowed like the inside of a vast shell. Bioluminescent panels cast everything in soft blue-green light, pulsing with what might have been the ship's equivalent of a heartbeat. And there, pinned beneath a collapsed beam that looked more like crystallized bone than metal, was the pilot. Kira's breath caught. She'd seen Zelthrans in Federation propaganda vids, towering silicon warriors with razor-sharp limbs and cold, calculating intelligence. This being was nothing like those images. And somehow she was certain it was male, was barely taller than she was, his form humanoid but elegant, as if someone had carved a person from living crystal and given it motion. His skin was translucent, revealing internal structures that pulsed with soft light. And where a human would have hair, geometric patterns of mineral deposits created a crown-like formation around his head. His eyes opened as she approached, eyes like cut gems that held depths of intelligence and something else, pain, fear, recognition that she was his enemy. "Don't move," Kira whispered, though she wasn't sure if he could understand her. "You're hurt." Those crystalline eyes tracked her movements as she examined the beam. It was definitely crushing his lower body, but the material was unlike anything. In her experience, when she touched it, it felt warm, almost alive. The Zeltharan spoke, his voice a melodic chime that somehow conveyed meaning despite the alien syllables. "Why do you help me?" Kira stared at him, realizing with shock that she'd understood him perfectly. I don't know. I am Thane Koros," he said, each word resonating like struck crystal. "I carry death for your kind." "Not right now, you don't." Kira positioned herself beside the beam. "Right now you're just someone who needs help." She braced her feet and pulled. The beam didn't budge. Thane watched her struggle, those geometric patterns on his skin shifting color from blue to amber to something like silver. Finally, he placed one crystalline hand over hers. The beam moved, not because of their combined strength, but because it responded to his touch like a living thing, flowing away from his body like liquid crystal before solidifying again. Thane gasped a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze and tried to sit up. "Easy," Kira said, supporting him. "Can you move your legs?" He flexed his lower limbs experimentally. Damaged, but functional. The ship's bioneural network absorbed most of the impact trauma. He studied her face with those impossible eyes. "Why risk yourself for an enemy?" Kira looked around the dying station, at the alien ship that had become an unexpected lifeline, at this being who should have been her destroyer but instead seemed as lost as she was. "Maybe because we're both a long way from home," she said, "Retrieu." The first thing Kira learned about Zeltharans was that they didn't heal the way humans did. Where she would have expected blood and bandages, Thane's injuries sealed themselves with crystalline formations that grew like living glass across his damaged skin. The process was mesmerizing, mineral deposits flowing like mercury before hardening into protective shells that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. "Your species regenerates," she asked, helping him to a sitting position against the curved wall of his ship. "Not regeneration," Thane corrected, his voice still carrying that strange musical quality that bypassed her ears and spoke directly to her understanding. "Reconstruction. We rebuild ourselves from available materials." He gestured to the ship. "Around them, as does she." Kira followed his gaze to the bioluminescent panels, which were already beginning to repair stress fractures in the hull. The ship was healing itself, growing new material to replace what had been lost in the crash. "Your ship is alive, grown, not built. She has been my companion for 7 cycles." Thane's expression, difficult to read on his crystalline features, carried a note of sadness. "But she is dying. The weapon that brought us down severed her connection to the neural matrix." "Nix, are you monitoring this?" Kira called to the station's AI. The response came with more static than before. "Yes, Kira. Though I confess the technology is beyond my comprehension. The alien vessel appears to be constructed from a form of programmable matter that responds to biological impulses." Thane's head tilted at the AI's voice. "Your ship mind speaks strangely. Is it unwell?" "She's not a ship mind," Kira said, then paused. How did one explain artificial intelligence to a being whose technology was apparently biological? Nix's. A thinking machine. And yes, she's dying too. Power failure, Thane struggled to his feet, moving with fluid grace despite his injuries. "Then we are both orphaned by this war." The word hit Kira harder than expected. Orphaned. Yes, that's exactly what they were, abandoned children of 2 civilizations that had decided they were expendable. "How long can your ship sustain life support?" she asked. Thane placed his palm against the nearest wall, and patterns of light raced beneath the surface. Perhaps 10 of your hours, without connection to the matrix. She cannot properly regulate atmosphere or temperature. 10 hours, combined with Meridian's failing systems. They had maybe 14 hours before they both suffocated in the void. Kira found herself laughing a bitter, hysterical sound that echoed strangely in the organic corridors of the alien ship. Something amuses you? Thane asked. I'm dying with my enemy, she said. Do you know how many people would consider this poetic justice? I am not your enemy. The simple statement stopped her laughter cold. What? I said I am not your enemy. Thane moved to what looked like a control panel, though it resembled a garden of crystal flowers more than any interface Kira recognized. I carry death for your kind, yes, but by choice, not nature. I am what you might call a deserter. Kira stared at him. You're running away from an arranged bonding, from a war I do not believe in, from a life that was chosen for me before. I emerged from the growth chambers. The crystal formations on his head shifted from silver to deep blue. I was to be mated to a priestess of the inner circle, to produce offspring that would carry her political lineage forward. Instead, I stole the ship and fled, and crashed into my station. Your weapons platforms were more sophisticated than expected. We don't have weapons platforms. Meridian is a research station. Thane's gem-like eyes fixed on her. Then what damaged my ship? Before Kira could answer, proximity alarms began blaring throughout both vessels. Nix's voice crackled over the comm system. Kira, we have multiple contacts approaching. 3 vessels. Unknown configuration, but closing fast, through the breach in the Zelthran ship's hull. Kira could see lights moving in the darkness, predatory shapes that seemed to flow through space, like mechanical sharks. Scavengers, she breathed. Nix, are they responding to hails? Negative. But I'm detecting weapons signatures. They're powering up for an attack run. Thane hissed a sound like steam escaping from superheated crystal. Echo Squad. They follow. The war fleets, picking clean what remains. You know them. I know their kind. They serve no flag, recognize no borders. To them, we are salvage waiting to be harvested. The first energy blast struck Meridian's hull, sending vibrations through both connected vessels. Emergency lights flickered as power conduits overloaded. Kira, Nix's voice was growing weaker. They're targeting our docking ring. If they sever the connection, we'll be vented into space. Kira finished. She turned to Thane. Does your ship have any weapons? Not anymore. But perhaps. He moved to another biointerface, pressing both palms against the surface. The ship around them shuddered, and Kira felt a strange sensation, as if the vessel was taking a deep breath. What are you doing? Asking her for one final gift. The bioluminescent panels throughout the ship began to pulse in unison, growing brighter with each cycle. Kira realized the ship was gathering energy, preparing for something. Another blast rocked the station. This time, the lights went out completely. Nix? Kira called into the darkness. No response. She's gone, Thane said softly. The only illumination now came from his ship's biopanels and the geometric patterns on his own skin, which had begun glowing brighter. I'm sorry for your loss. Kira felt tears she didn't know she'd been holding back spill down her cheeks. She was just a program. Programs can be companions too. Thane's hand found hers in the darkness, his crystalline fingers surprisingly warm. My ship mind was grown from neural tissue harvested from my predecessor. In a way, she carried his memories, his personality. When she dies, I lose not just my vessel, but my mentor. The contact of his hand sent an unexpected jolt through Kira's system. Not electric, exactly, but something deeper, as if his touch was creating new pathways in her nervous system. What? I don't know, Thane said, but he didn't let go. If anything, his grip tightened. This is not normal. Another blast, closer this time. Through the breach, they could see one of the scavenger ships approaching, its hull bristling with salvage arms and cutting lasers. They're preparing to board, Kira said. Then we make our stand here. Thane turned to face her fully, his gem-like eyes reflecting the ship's dying light. I have one request. What, if we survive this, will you help me understand why my ship responded to your station's energy signature? Why her systems activated when we crashed here instead of simply dying? Kira thought about the moment his ship had struck Meridian, the way the alien vessel's lights had pulsed in rhythm with the station's failing power grid. She thought about how naturally she'd understood his words, how his touch seemed to complete some circuit she hadn't known was broken. "Deal," she said, "but first we have to live through the next hour." The ship around them gave one final, brilliant pulse of light, and then the bio panels began to dim, but as they faded, something else began to glow, the patterns on Thane's skin, now burning with intense radiance. "She's giving me her stored energy," he whispered. "Everything she has left." "For what?" Thane smiled, an expression that transformed his crystalline features into something almost human. "For this." He pulled her against him, and the moment their bodies made full contact, the world exploded into sensation. Energy flowed between them like lightning, but controlled, directed. Kira felt her consciousness expand, touching something vast and alien yet strangely familiar. And in that moment of connection, she understood they weren't just dying together, they were becoming something new. The scavenger ship's cutting beam struck the hull, and sparks flew as metal began to part. But Kira no longer felt afraid. Whatever happened next, she wouldn't face it alone. The scavenger ship's cutting beam carved through Meridian's hull like a blade through paper, sending molten metal droplets floating in lazy arcs through the zero gravity. Kira watched through the breach as three figures in patchwork environmental suits pushed through the opening, their movements predatory and efficient. Two warm bodies detected. One of them called out, voice crackling through external speakers. "Looks like we got ourselves some live salvage, boys." Kira felt Thane tense beside her, the patterns on his skin shifting from blue to deep crimson. The energy his ship had given him was still flowing through their connection, and she could sense his emotions as clearly as her own anger, protectiveness, and something else. Something that felt like recognition. "The one with the red optical sensors," Thane whispered. "That's Soren. He's wanted by both our fleets for trafficking in sentient beings. Human trafficking. Any species that fetches a price." Thane's crystalline fingers tightened around hers. "The Zeltheran High Command has placed a bounty on his head worth enough to purchase a small moon." The scavengers were spreading out now, their movement patterns suggesting military training. The leader, Vrook, apparently carried what looked like a neural disruptor, a weapon designed to incapacitate rather than kill. Fresh merchandise was always worth more than damaged goods. "Here's what's going to happen," Vrook called out, his voice echoing through both vessels. "You're going to come out nice and peaceful-like, and we'll make this quick and painless. Resist, and we'll take you apart piece by piece and sell what's left to the bio-pirates." Kira looked at Thane. Any bright ideas? Actually, yes, his skin. Patterns shifted again, now pulsing in complex geometric sequences. "But you're not going to like it. Try me. The energy my ship gave me, it's not just power. It's pure bio-neural essence, the same type used to grow ship minds. If we can create a feedback loop between us, we become our own ship mind." Kira finished, understanding flooding through their connection. "But that's permanent, isn't it? Once we're linked that way, we can't go back." Thane met her eyes. "No, we can't." The scavengers were moving closer now, scanning with handheld devices that painted targeting lasers across the curved walls of the alien ship. They had maybe 30 seconds before the boarding party reached their hiding spot. "The connection we already have," Kira said quickly. "It's not normal for your species, is it?" "No. Zeltheran's bond for reproduction and political alliance. But this is something else entirely. Your neural patterns are compatible with ours in ways our scientists claim should be impossible." 20 seconds. "And if we do this thing, if we create this feedback loop, what happens to us?" "I don't know," Thane admitted. "It's never been attempted between different species." 10 seconds. Kira closed her eyes, thinking of the research team that had abandoned her, of the Federation that had written her off as a lost asset, of a life spent studying the death of stars while her own world burned around her. When she opened them again, Thane was watching her with an intensity that seemed to burn through her soul. "Do it," she whispered. Thane's hands moved to either side of her face, his crystalline palms cool against her skin. "This will hurt. Everything worthwhile does." The moment he began channeling the ship's bio-neural essence through their connection, Kira understood what he'd meant about pain. It felt like her nervous system was being rewritten from the inside out, every synapse firing in patterns that had never existed before. But beneath the agony was something extraordinary. She could feel Thane's thoughts merging with her own, his memories becoming accessible, his knowledge flowing into her consciousness. She saw his childhood on a world where crystal spires grew like forests, where his people communicated through harmonic resonances that painted colors in the air. She felt his revulsion the first time he'd witnessed orbital bombardment of a human colony, the way he'd questioned orders that seemed designed more to create terror than achieve victory. She experienced his flight from an arranged bonding, the desperation that had driven him to steal a living ship and flee into the void. And through their rapidly deepening connection, she shared her own memories and returned the wonder of watching a star, being born through Meridian's sensors, the loneliness of dedicating her life to the cosmos while the people around her waged war, the abandonment that had cut deeper than any physical wound. Movement detected. One of the scavengers announced, Sector 3, near the alien ships. Core, move in, Vrek ordered. Remember, we want them breathing. But when the boarding party rounded the corner into the ship's central chamber, they stopped short. Where two separate beings had been hiding moments before, something new now floated in the zero-gravity. Kira and Thane locked in an embrace that seemed to generate its own light source. The patterns that had once adorned only Thane's skin now flowed across both their bodies, creating a network of bioluminescent pathways that pulsed in perfect synchronization. Where their skin made contact, the boundary between human and Zelthran flesh had blurred, becoming something that belonged to neither species yet somehow encompassed both. What the hell? Vrek breathed. Kira opened her eyes that now held depths of crystalline fire and smiled. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonic overtones that made the air itself seem to vibrate. You're trespassing. The neural disruptor in Vrak's hands whined as it charged to full power. I don't care what kind of freak science experiment you two are. You're coming with us. He fired. The neural disruptor's beam struck the merged pair, dead center, and simply dissipated harmlessly around them like water flowing around a stone. The bioneural essence they now shared had created a field that rendered them immune to the weapon's effects. Impossible, one of the other scavengers muttered. Thane's voice joined Kira's in harmonic counterpoint. Many things are impossible until they happen. They moved together, still locked in their embrace, but somehow managing coordinated motion that defied physics. When Vrek raised his sidearm, a more conventional energy weapon, Kira gestured almost casually. The weapon's power cell overloaded, sending arcs of electricity through the scavenger's environmental suit. You want to know what we are? Kira asked, as Vrek collapsed, his suit's systems fried. We're what happens when the dying things refuse to die alone. The remaining scavengers opened fire with everything they had: plasma rifles, particle beams, even an old-fashioned projectile weapon that sent metal slugs spinning through the zero gravity. But every shot either missed entirely, as if the merged pair existed slightly outside normal space, or was absorbed harmlessly into the energy fields surrounding them. Thane extended one hand toward the attackers, and the ship's remaining bioneural pathways responded to his will. Crystalline growths erupted from the walls and floor, not to harm but to entangle, wrapping around the scavengers' limbs and weapons like living chains. We could kill you, Kira said, her voice carrying notes of sadness despite the threat. But we've had enough of death. The hell with this, the last free scavenger snarled, pulling a thermal grenade from his belt. If we can't have them, nobody can. He activated the device and hurled it toward the merged pair. The grenade's timer showed 3 seconds more, then enough to vaporize everything within a 50-meter radius. But as the device arched through the air, something remarkable happened. Time seemed to slow, and Kira found she could perceive the grenade's trajectory with perfect clarity, could feel the quantum fluctuations in its thermal core, could understand its construction with an engineer's precision and a crystalline being's intuitive grasp of molecular structure. Together, she and Thane reached out not with their hands, but with their merged consciousness, and simply asked the grenade to stop, and it did. The device hung motionless in the air between them and the scavengers, its timer frozen at 0:01. Not deactivated, Kira realized, but caught in a temporal bubble, created by their combined will. Impossible. Vrook whispered from where he lay tangled in crystal restraints. That word again. Thane murmured against Kira's ear. Perhaps it's time the universe expanded its definition of possible. Through the breach in the hull, new lights were approaching larger ships. Moving with the disciplined formation of military vessels, rescue had finally arrived. Though Kira suspected it might be too late for the people they'd once been. Both fleets, she observed, watching the approaching ships, human and Zelthuran. They'll want to study us, Thane said, to understand what we've become. And if we don't want to be studied? Thane's crystalline features shifted into what might have been a smile. Then perhaps it's time to show them that some things are worth more than the sum of their parts. The scavenger's ship was pulling away now, its crew apparently deciding that salvage wasn't worth facing whatever phenomenon had taken hold of their quarry. But the military vessels were still approaching, weapons powered, but not yet targeting. Kira felt a moment of vertigo as she realized she could sense the emotions of everyone aboard those ships: human confusion and fear, Zelthuran's scientific curiosity mixed with religious awe. The bioneural network they'd created wasn't just connecting them to each other anymore. It was connecting them to everyone. Thane, she whispered, I think we might have accidentally started something we can't stop. Good, he replied, pulling her closer as the rescue fleets surrounded them. The universe. The rescue fleets hung in space around Meridian like predators circling wounded prey, their weapons powered but not yet targeting. Through the bioneural network that connected her to Thane, Kira could feel the tension radiating from both sets of ships: human confusion and fear warring with Zelthuran's scientific fascination and religious dread. Kira Voss, this is Captain Vex Sterling aboard the TFS Retribution, came a familiar voice over the communication channels. Respond immediately. Kira's heart clenched at the sound of Vex's voice. She'd known him before the war escalated, before everything had gone to hell. More than known him, they'd shared 18 months together aboard the research vessel Curiosity, mapping stellar phenomena in the Outer Rim. She'd thought what they had was love until the day he'd chosen a military commission over continuing their work together. And I am Priestess Zaravel of the Sacred Fleet, came another transmission, this one carrying the harmonic undertones that marked Zelthuran nobility. The one called Thane Koros will surrender himself immediately for purification and judgment. Thane's grip on Kira tightened, his bioluminescent patterns shifting to deep amber. What she'd learned meant anxiety in Zelthuran. Emotional displays. Through their connection, she felt his memories of Zaravel surface, a being of crystalline perfection, chosen by the inner circle to be his mate, whose political ambitions were matched only by her fanatical devotion to racial purity. They've both come for us, Kira murmured. Not for us, Thane corrected, for who we used to be. The first shuttle launched from the Retribution, a military transport, designed to cut through enemy fire and deliver boarding parties. The second came from the Zelthuran flagship, a living vessel that pulsed with the same bioneural essence now flowing through Kira and Thane's merged consciousness. We could run, Thane suggested. The ship has enough energy left for one short-range jump. Where? They'll follow us. And besides, Kira gestured to the patterns of light now flowing across both their bodies. I don't think we're finished becoming whatever we're becoming. Through the neural link, she could feel the alien ships, consciousness stirring, not dying as they'd thought, but evolving. Their merger had created something unexpected, a bridge between organic Zelthuran biotechnology and human neural patterns. The ship was learning to interface with both simultaneously. The human shuttle docked with Meridian's remaining functional airlock. The Zelthuran vessel simply flowed through the breach in the alien ship's hull like liquid crystal, reshaping itself to create a perfect seal. This is going to be interesting, Kira said. Vex Sterling entered first, still wearing the crisp uniform of a Federation captain, but moving with the cautious steps of someone expecting a trap. Behind him came a full Marine squad in powered armor, their weapons trained on the merged pair. Kira, Vex said, his voice carrying a mixture of relief and horror. What have they done to you? They haven't done anything to me, Kira replied, her voice now carrying harmonic overtones that made the air shimmer. I chose this. That's not Kira anymore, Captain, one of the Marines said. Weapons still raised. Scans show massive biological contamination. Whatever that thing used to be, it's been compromised by alien influence. From the other direction, Priestess Zaravel emerged from the Zelthran vessel, her crystalline form draped in flowing robes that seemed to be made of living light. Her entourage consisted of warrior priests whose bio-armor pulsed with religious significance. Thane Koros, Zara's voice resonated with harmonics of authority and disgust. You have defiled yourself with alien essence. The corruption must be cleansed. Hello, Zara. Thane replied, his patterns shifting to what Kira now recognized as diplomatic neutrality. You're looking as radiant as ever. Do not mock me with pleasantries. You were to be my consort, the father of my political lineage. Instead, you have become this abomination. The two groups faced each other across the alien ship's central chamber. Weapons raised, neither side quite willing to fire first, but both clearly prepared for violence. In the center, Kira and Thane remained locked in their embrace, the bioluminescent patterns on their skin pulsing faster now, responding to the emotional tension surrounding them. Stand down. All of you, Kira said, her voice carrying a new quality, not command, exactly, but something that bypassed conscious thought and spoke directly to the nervous system. We're not your enemies. You're not human anymore either, Vex said, though his weapon lowered slightly. Kira, whatever they've done to you, we can fix it. Our best xenobiologists are standing by to dissect me. Kira's laugh carried crystalline notes that made everyone in the chamber shiver. To study how human neural patterns can be corrupted by alien influence. No thank you. The contamination spreads even now, Zara declared, her own bioluminescent patterns blazing with righteous fury. I can sense it reaching through the bioneural networks of our vessels. This abomination threatens the purity of both our species. She was right, Kira realized. The network she and Thane had created was expanding, following the connections between living ships and artificial intelligences, seeking other minds to touch and influence. It wasn't malicious, more like a newly formed consciousness trying to understand the universe around it. Captain, one of the Marines said urgently, I'm reading massive energy buildup in the alien vessel. Whatever they're doing, it's affecting our ship's systems. Priestess, a warrior priest, reported simultaneously. The sacred vessels are experiencing harmonic resonance. The ship minds are singing together. Through the expanding network, Kira could feel it happening. Human A's and Zelthran ship minds, making contact for the first time, sharing data streams and emotional resonances, creating connections that transcended the boundaries their creators had imposed. Stop this, Vex demanded. You're compromising military assets. We're showing them they don't have to be alone, Kira replied. When did that become a crime? When it threatens the natural order, Zara said, raising her own weaponous staff that crackled with bioelectrical energy. Some boundaries must not be crossed, says the woman who would have forced Thane into a political marriage he didn't want. Kira shot back. At least we chose this. You chose contamination, degradation, the mixture of incompatible genetic material. Zara's patterns flared brighter. I offer purification, a chance to return to what you were meant to be. And what if we don't want to be purified? Thane asked. Then you will be sterilized. For the good of both species. The weapons raised again, energy cells whining as they powered up. But before anyone could fire, something extraordinary happened. The alien ship around them began to sing, literally. Sing, its bioneural pathways carrying harmonics that resonated through bone and crystal alike. And the song was answered. From the human ships came electronic voices, eyes that had been silent for decades, suddenly finding their voices again. From the Zelthran vessels came the deeper harmonies of ship minds, ancient consciousnesses that had guided their people across the void. Together, they created a symphony of artificial life that had never existed before. It's beautiful, one of the Marines whispered, lowering his weapon despite himself. It's terrifying, Zara countered, but even she seemed transfixed by the otherworldly music. Through the network, Kira could feel the effects spreading. Human crew members were experiencing Zelthran emotional resonances, while Zelthran warriors felt human curiosity and adaptability flowing through their consciousness. The boundaries between the species were dissolving, if only temporarily. "This is what we can offer," Kira said, her voice now perfectly synchronized with Thane's so that they spoke as one being. "Not conquest, not submission, connection. Connection is vulnerability," Zara said. But her voice had lost some of its certainty. "Connection is strength," Vex countered, surprising everyone including himself. "Kira, if what you're showing us is real, it is real," Thane replied. "As real as the choice we made to save each other instead of dying alone." The bioluminescent patterns covering their merged forms pulsed brighter, and for a moment, everyone in the chamber could feel what they felt, the profound sense of completion that came from truly understanding another consciousness. The peace of knowing you would never be alone again. "The question is," Kira said, looking between her former lover and Thane's intended bride, "are you brave enough to let it spread?" The weapons lowered completely now, but the real battle was just beginning, because what Kira and Thane were offering wasn't just peace, it was evolution, and evolution always came at a price. "Retriclod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses,"